The West is self-destructing. Hey folks, Mad Cat here. Welcome to the channel where we talk about politics, faith, current events, and controversial topics. Right now, we are witnessing the decay of Western civilization on a grand scale. People have started to notice in ways that they haven't before, but still refuse to be proactive in preserving Western culture. I mean, the signs are everywhere. Decline in Europe, political chaos, cultural rot, declining families, and leaders who openly advocate and validate Western decay. History has shown us countless times that great societies don't die because of external factors. They die from within. And the West's moral core is rapidly disappearing. This is becoming more apparent in the United States than ever before. We traded faith and work ethic for comfort and complacency. Our Judeo-Christian foundation mocked openly and exclusively. The nuclear family is abandoned and ridiculed, and patriotism, ironically, is seen as a threat to democracy. We take a look at history and we can clearly see that when societies stop believing in something higher, they collapse into chaos. The same thing is happening right here in the United States. I mean, seriously, we have drag queen story hour and OnlyFans. Degeneracy isn't just tolerated anymore, it is celebrated as some kind of perverse form of liberation. And the people who call it out for what it is, branded as hateful, bigoted, out of touch, you name it. And then there's leadership, or rather the lack of it. Our legislators, particularly those on the left, have become a band of virtue signalers and moral posturing fools. Our politicians do not build anything, nor do they legislate in such a way that benefits the common man. They are looting the system for personal gain, and this is particularly true amongst those who claim to be progressive. And because we've allowed them to play this game for so long, they no longer take our objections seriously. This is precisely the kind of dismissive attitude that gave rise to an outsider like Donald Trump. The swamp is real and people were sick of it. Institutions that we once trusted, government, media, universities, they have been polluted by corruption and incompetence. I mean, they serve overtly as indoctrination mediums, and that is becoming increasingly apparent. And people are right to distrust, because these institutions blatantly lie, they provide cover for the corrupt, and they feed narratives that collapse the second that you apply any kind of criticism. Our universities were once built as spaces to pursue truth and cultivate wisdom and form future leaders. Today, they function as ideology factories. Students do not emerge more thoughtful, more disciplined. They certainly aren't more grateful for the society that gave them such an opportunity. They emerge bitter, entitled, and often openly hostile towards the very West that gave them the education. They no longer see themselves as heirs of a noble tradition, but as victims of an oppressive one. The aspects that shape the West, literature, philosophy, history, and especially faith, are dismissed as irrelevant and dangerous. In their place, entire departments are devoted to grievance, teaching young men and women not how to think critically, but what to think. Universities do not produce free thinkers anymore. They produce idealistic activists, those who believe that the world should be perfect when they themselves are not. The result is a generation convinced that the civilization they inherited is unworthy of preservation. That is quintessential indoctrination. And then there's economics. The West is like a spoiled rich kid that inherited grandpa's fortune and then went and blew it at the casino. This is the result of having it too good for too long and being totally ungrateful. We are the greatest consumer society in history, where even the poorest have access to luxuries that much of the world couldn't fathom in their wildest dreams. This kind of society was built through the blood, sweat, and tears of all of those who came before us. The economic decline of the West is not simply a matter of numbers on a balance sheet. It is the result of arrogance and ingratitude. We became the wealthiest civilization in human history, and instead of stewarding that wealth, we have squandered it. We outsourced our industries, we hollowed out the middle class, and we built entire industries on credit and illusion. But again, even more dangerous than the economics is the attitude. In place of gratitude, we see entitlement. We no longer see prosperity as a gift handed down through blood, sweat, and sacrifice of earlier generations. Instead, we treat it as a birthright that requires no preservation. A people that inherited more than any civilization before them, yet refuses to acknowledge the cost of that inheritance, will not keep it for long. And then there's the people. Societies don't survive without people. And guess what? The West isn't having kids. Birth rates are collapsing everywhere. The United States and the whole of Europe. Mass immigration floods people in much faster than they can assimilate, and that is not sustainable. One of the biggest lies that we have ever been fed in the West is that diversity is a strength, and that is simply not true. Now, there can be strength within diversity, but that requires work, and it's becoming increasingly evident. But if you bring attention to that particular issue, you are branded a racist, when in reality, it's not a racial issue, it's a cultural issue. Western culture isn't just different, it is better. There's a reason that acquiring citizenship, particularly in the United States, is a lengthy and tedious process. It's so that one can assimilate to Western norms while also being allowed to keep aspects of the culture from which they came. And finally, the death blow to the West, the coup de grace, willpower, lack of willpower. The West has lost the will to fight for itself. We apologize for existing. We censor truth in order to avoid offending people who will hate us no matter what we do. I mean, compare the United States to its rivals. Do you think China apologizes for being China? Do you think Russia worries about pronouns in its military? Hell no. Meanwhile, our elites push weakness as a virtue. Societies that hate themselves do not survive, period. Every society before us believed itself invincible. But history tells a different story. That they fall, and almost always for the same reason. Not external enemies, but internal weakness. The West today stands at the same precipice. We inherited freedom paid for in blood. We inherited prosperity beyond imagination, and we squander it with ingratitude. Societies die when people forget who they are. When they lose the will to defend the inheritance that they were given. When they mock the very foundations that gave them life, decline is no longer a possibility, it is a certainty. Again, the signs are before us, and now is the time for us to decide. Do we preserve or destroy? Mad Cat out.